Welcome back, pod people. Today, let's talk about evil dolls and evil doll movies. This is one of my favorite subgenres of film, right below Italian cannibal movies and right above Sam Neill losing his shit. To me, an evil doll movie needs a few different things in order to be really top tier and memorable and high quality. Like all horror movies, it needs really strong characters who you have strong feelings about. Either you love them or you hate them. Either one works as long as you care about them. And the second thing that it needs is a strong doll. The doll or dolls need to be actually creepy and actually active. That is, that the doll itself needs to do creepy things. The movie can't just be creepy stuff happens and there happens to be a doll. It has to be the doll does creepy things. Dolls themselves are not like intrinsically scary. What makes them scary is that when they start doing creepy things, no one believes you. They're unbelievable supernatural threats, as we talked about in a previous episode, and that's what makes them so creepy to me. I think that in order to maximize that creepiness, a doll needs to look like a normal doll, at least at the beginning of the movie. If it starts out like deliberately creepy looking, then it doesn't work for me. Whereas if it starts out normal looking and either stays normal looking the entire way through or becomes creepy looking as the movie goes on, then it works for me. So with all that in mind, let's go through a bunch of creepy doll movies and rank them on this tier list. I've got S for superb. These are the best of the best. Definitely should watch these. A for awesome. These are really good, well worth your time. B for B movies. They're neither great nor terrible. C for see it once. I mean, you don't have to. And D for don't bother. These are pretty bad and not worth your time. So with all that in mind, let's see what we've got. I'm going to start with probably the most famous evil doll movie, and certainly the one that's had the strongest influence, and at least in terms of creating the most sequels, and that is the original Child's Play. Child's Play is a very fun movie that I'm going to put in the A tier because it's not the best of the best. It's not even the best Child's Play movie. We'll get to that later. But it is very good and definitely worth watching. Following it up are Child's Play 2 and 3, both of which I'm going to put in the B tier. They're both good. They follow on well from the original, and I enjoy them. But they're not quite up to par with the original. Now, what's really interesting is that the Child's Play series, every entry in this series was written by Don Mancini. And in addition, after the first three, all of the subsequent films were directed by Don Mancini. So let's go ahead and rank those as well. Next up is Bride of Chucky, which introduces Tiffany, another great character. I'm going to put that in the A tier. And honestly, really good, really creepy, fun. Reminds me a lot of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's getting a little bit sillier, but it's still a solid horror film. Then there's Seed of Chucky, which I love the themes of gender exploration in that movie. Don Mancini is a gay man, and as the series goes on, it gets queerer and queerer, which I love. But it strays pretty far into comedy in Seed of Chucky. But then we come back to horror with, in my opinion, the best film in the series, Curse of Chucky, which is going in the S tier. That movie is great. I love it. And it's incredibly creepy. There are moments in there where Chucky just is completely stationary, but his pupils widen, and that's creepier than anything in a lot of these other movies that I'm going to talk about. Then following that is Cult of Chucky, another very important movie for the Chucky mythos. Oh, that's another fun thing. All of these Don Mancini Chucky movies are in continuity with each other. Whether they're really comedic or really horrifying, they're all canon, which I think is just great. It's not going on here because this is a movie list, but I do recommend checking out the television show Chucky. Again, written and showrun by Don Mancini. Gay main character, really good. Definitely a lot of fun. Then we come to the only Chucky media project that was not made by Don Mancini in any way, and not coincidentally, by far the worst, the remake of Child's Play, which is barely a remake because the premise is entirely different. It's functionally a completely separate movie. So there's really... They just shouldn't have called it Child's Play. They should have just given it a different title, redesigned Chucky to be a different doll, and then it would have been, fine. But as it is, it's just so much worse than the other ones that I have to put it in the bottom category. D for don't bother. Now that we've got the Child's Play series out of the way, let's take a look at some other movies. Next up, probably the simplest title you can come up with for an evil doll movie, Dolls. Dolls I'm going to put in the B tier because while it's solid and well-made, entertaining, it isn't super memorable to me, and I don't have a lot to say about it. So it didn't offend me or really bore me, but it also didn't stick with me. So I could go either way on it. Next up, probably the least known one on this list, The Curse of Humpty Dumpty, which honestly, a lot better than I expected it to be. I'm still going to put it in C tier for see it once because I'm probably never going to watch it again. But given that I expected it to be complete trash from the trailer and from the doll design, which I do not like that doll design because it is clearly meant to be creepy, which makes it less creepy for me. The actual characters were really sympathetic and the story was, solid and interesting. And I actually, cared about what happened to the characters, which is the most important thing in a horror movie. Next up is Tourist Trap, which I'm going to give a B. Tourist Trap is an interesting one because it is it's one of those movies that just sort of seems to be throwing a lot of things at the wall. It's from the 70s, and it is sort of simultaneously doing a Hills Have Eyes Texas Chainsaw Massacre isolated in a rural area sort of thing, and doing an evil doll thing. And it doesn't execute any of them great, but the combination of all of them is unique and interesting and fun. Worth a watch. Next, I'm going to go with probably the first evil doll movie ever made, Devil Doll from, I believe, 1964. Devil Doll, I'm going to give an A. It is really, really a product of its time. It's slow. The special effects are really unbelievable, but there are some moments in it that are just incredibly creepy. It is starring a ventriloquist, and the actual ventriloquism performances are super creepy, and definitely worth watching. Next up is Puppet Master. Honestly, I'm going to have to give Puppet Master a C. It's just, the characters are all right. The doll designs are really weird and don't grab me. And the whole thing is just sort of feels all over the place. It's not well designed enough, in my opinion. And similar, while we're on the subject of things that are all over the place, the Goosebumps movie, which I will also give a C. Goosebumps is something that I loved as a kid. I loved reading those books, and I would have preferred if the movie had been an adaptation of one of those books instead of this weird sort of set in the real world thing, but it does feature Slappy the ventriloquist dummy, so it's going on the list. Honestly, better than the Goosebumps movie, the Goosebumps TV show. That's worth watching. Now, let's go for let's go for another not very good one. Dead Silence. Dead Silence is one of two different James Wan films that are on this list. I don't really like James Wan's movies. I mean, the first Saw is okay, but I'm not really into the Conjuring universe. Aquaman was like, all right, I guess. But Dead Silence, the ending pushes it up from a D. The ending is pretty cool. The reveal of what's been going on the whole time, while predictable, is fun, and it's a neat thing to be happening. But one thing that I didn't mention earlier, but that I do want from an Evil Doll movie is I want cool practical effects of the dolls moving around. And this just doesn't do that for me. But you know what does, and which I'm going to put in the A rank, is Black Devil Doll from Hell. This is an independent micro-budget film about an evil ventriloquist dummy that has to be seen to be believed. It's great. I love this kind of indie filmmakers, people who I don't think have had any experience making movies outside of this one, who are willing to, just give it everything they've got and make a movie that has some genuinely good scares in it. So kudos to the people who made Black Devil Doll from Hell. Next up is The Pit, which I will give a B. This one's only sort of barely an Evil Doll movie, but there is an Evil Doll in it. So, and it's, it's a solid movie, so it goes on the list. And then Trilogy of Terror, also a B. Trilogy of Terror is interesting. It was very influential. I know that James Mancini cited it as an influence on Child's Play, and only one of the three stories in the trilogy has anything to do with an evil doll. But, it's worth it from a historical perspective. You can also watch an episode of The Twilight Zone if you want some more short things about evil dolls that were influential. Next is, and we're nearing the end now, I'm saving the best and the worst for last, which means we need to get this one out of the way. It's Dolly Dearest, which I guess I'll give a C. Could maybe be a B, but I think the effects are good. And the setting is fun, but the characters I'm sort of not that invested in. But I do like the doll design, and I do like the special effects enough. Actually, I'm going to bump it up to a B. It's solid. And that leaves the best and the worst ones that I have seen. And I'm very confident in my assertion of which one is the best, and I'm also confident that my assertion of which one is the worst is going to be pretty controversial. So I'll start with the best. The best is Magic, starring a young Anthony Hopkins as a ventriloquist. He also does the voice of the dummy, and he does it entirely in camera. This is fantastic. This is an incredible character piece. A way that I've been describing it is if you liked the Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, and you would like to see that for another Batman villain, this is that for the ventriloquist. It's basically an origin story of someone who starts out, barely holding things together, and by the end of the movie absolutely does not have things together, and some people die along the way. Really, really fascinating, excellently acted character piece. Definitely worth a watch. And finally, in my opinion, by far the worst movie on this list, Annabelle. Annabelle gets a D for do not watch. This movie sucks, in my opinion. A lot of that is that it is very much billed as an evil doll movie, but it isn't. It is a haunted house movie that happens to have an evil doll in it. The doll never does anything. It's just there. There's nothing like the doll never runs around. The doll like floats in one scene, which is just a generic poltergeist effect. And also the doll is so clearly designed to look creepy. And the thing that really bothers me about this, and about the Conjuring universe in general, but especially this one, is that the Annabelle story, the quote-unquote true story that this is based off of, is more interesting than the story they make up for the movie. In the true story is about two women who live together in an apartment who are haunted by a Raggedy Ann doll that moves around on its own. And in this movie, it's a family that lives in a house who are haunted by this creepy-ass porcelain doll. I say creepy-ass, it's not actually creepy. It's designed to look creepy, but it's not actually creepy. This attempting to be creepy porcelain doll that just does generic spooky haunted house things, like creepy noises and making doors slam shut and stuff, and doesn't like move around on its own, which is the creepiest thing that evil dolls can do. And so, I don't know, it fails as an adaptation, it fails as an original movie, it fails as a creepy doll. It's just a total failure. The worst movie on this list. So these are my recommendations. If you're going to watch only one of these movies, watch Magic. If you're going to watch two of these movies, watch Magic and the original Child's Play. And if you're going to watch three of them, watch Magic, the original Child's Play, and Curse of Chucky. Even though I think Curse of Chucky is better than the original Child's Play, I think that a large part of what makes it so effective is the audience's expectations and knowledge of what Chucky's deal is. Watching the other movies in between those two is totally worth your time, but isn't absolutely necessary in order to understand them. I do recommend everything in the B or above on this. And from a historical perspective, Devil Doll is another great one to add to your list. And if you really like indie films, Black Devil Doll from Hell, definitely worth watching as well. Do you have other creepy doll movies that I should watch that I left off this list? If so, let me know about them. I'd love to hear from you.